Hello, welcome Twittersphere. I wanted to do a very, hopefully brief live stream, not only on my Twitter feed, but on my alternate YouTube channel, Open Point of View. Something that I had been reading and thinking about over the course of this morning. I've heard a couple of news articles with respect to the Dobbs ruling for abortion, which is still in the news, by the way. But I saw this article, and then I started thinking, and I went back and reviewed the ruling, and it looks like just maybe, our duly elected officials are misinformed with respect to the ruling. For those of you that don't already know, the ruling has sent back the authority to regulate abortion back to the elected officials, say back to the states. At first, I interpreted it to be, because I had heard in two previous reports that it was returned to the state courts for them to make the determination. Upon hearing the news or reading these news articles today, I started second guessing myself, and I decided, okay, I'm going to go back and look at the ruling again to see exactly what it says. And I was surprised when I actually read the ruling, technically word for word, because even the way I assumed it, I was misinformed. And I think a lot of us may be misinformed. It all depends really on how we interpret the ruling as to, but I think in all respects we need to interpret it as it was written by the Supreme Court justices. Now, the ruling itself says, and I'm going to pull it up on screen here, the ruling says that the authority to regulate abortion is returned to the people and to their elected representatives. It means that the ultimate decision in the regulation of abortion lies with the American citizen, is what it's saying. Basically, the Supreme Court is making this a joint venture between we the people and our elected representatives. It never gave our elected representatives, it never gave our state government the right, legally, for them to implement the laws that they've implemented. What am I saying? I'm saying that they basically, by all means and viewpoints of this ruling, it means that the right was referred back to the people to make the determination and their elected officials, but not government. You see, the people and the elected representatives is not state government, in a sense, okay? But I think the focus here should be on the people. What am I getting at? Well, what I'm getting at is that there's a level of misinformation with that. And I think that, and this may sound crazy, but hear me out. As you know, our government, our two-party system is clearly extremely divided. Some people would go as far to say, and I probably would too, that our two-party government is so poisoned that we really can't place a great deal of confidence or trust in our elected officials. Why? because they're so divided that, example, in our nation's capital, it is difficult, if not impossible, for any legislation to get passed. This has been going on since before the previous administration. Okay? So, that being the case, we can't trust them with a decision. So, in all honesty, this should be left up to the people. How can that be? Well, it was suggested, and I had and thought it had also come to me when I read this over again, that the only prudent measure would be a referendum on the ballot, where each and every citizen would vote either yes or no on whether or not abortion is legal or not legal. Now, you're probably saying, well, that's ridiculous. I mean, that's what our elected officials are here for. Now, a referendum could be done one of two ways. I don't know if it can be done on a nationwide scale. I don't think it can be done. I'm not 100% certain. But I do know that in a lot of states, you can do a referendum on the state level. How would that work when you're dealing with a country? I would think, just as in a federal election, when you're electing a president, a vice president, you will tally the votes for that state. There would have to be a centralized office or agency that would take the tally results of each state, add the respective votes together to come to a grand total. Prudent as it sounds, that would seem to be a very, very, even though it's a very, very extreme, it would be a very, very prudent measure. Why? Because it would give us, the people, the voice to speak and let our elected representatives know as a country how we feel. What is our view towards this issue? I think it's high time that as a country, as citizens of this country, the United States, we should make our voice heard, and we should let our representatives know on a grand scale how we feel. Our elected representatives have taken it upon themselves in some states to assume that that's what we want as a people. And 50% of the time, that's not the case. I believe in Texas at one time, a poll was taken as far as what people thought about abortion, and it was like 50-50 right down the middle, divided. I heard in some instances that there was like 68% of the population favors abortion as an emergency for rape or a emergency procedure if in the event of a miscarriage. I think those questions need to be posed in a referendum. The people of this great country, the United States of America, need to vote on that to make a statement. Make a statement to our elected officials. Make a statement to each political party, the conservatives and the liberals, and finally set this in stone as to what our population, what our great country thinks about this issue. I believe that, in part, that's the spirit of what the Dobbs ruling may have been meant to be. Otherwise, why would the Supreme Court justices phrase it the way they did when they said, and I'm going to look at it here, that the authority to regulate abortion should be returned to the people and to their elected representatives, because they want the people, you and I, Joe Public, to make the decision. That's what they're getting at. They want us as a people, as citizens of this country, to make the decision for ourselves. Clearly, our elected officials are too biased and poisoned with their political rhetoric that we can actually have confidence and trust them. This is just a thought. As I said, that when I read the article that I read this morning, and then I looked back on this ruling, I saw this, and it dawned on me, and I think it was that clear as a bell that this has to be a decision that is, in all honesty, voiced by the people themselves. And I think it would be for all best interest if it could be on the ballot in November. That would be awesome. It would be great. If not, we can put it on the ballot eventually in 2024 when the election comes around. But it needs to be done, and we need, as a people, to raise our voice and let our elected officials know where we stand as a nation. Well, that's basically what I wanted to talk about in a nutshell, and it's kind of a rare, maybe some people think it would be a crazy notion, but if you read the ruling and you think about it, it may not seem so crazy. I mean, look at where we're at as a nation, and wonder what needs to happen. What needs to happen? The record needs to be set. Our voice needs to be heard. How do we do it? If not a referendum. Thank you. Have a nice day, and I will see you on the next Twitter feed.